Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kathy Bird Carvajal, and I'm the Executive Director of Impact Fund, the Florida chapter of the American Business Immigration Coalition. We're a bipartisan coalition of 1,200 CEOs and employers across 15 states, including Florida, Texas, Arizona, and North Carolina. We work to promote bipartisan immigration solutions to legalize the 11 million that are good for our economy and help keep families together. We thank our Florida co-chairs, Mike Fernandez, Al Cardenas, Bob Dickinson, Mario Cartilla, Mel Martinez, and the entire Impact Board for their leadership. Thousands of undocumented high school students from Florida will graduate from college without work permits unless Congress passes the bipartisan Durbin-Graham Dream Act. This bill would provide a path to citizenship for nearly 2 million undocumented young people, including DACA recipients, those eligible to apply for DACA and other undocumented immigrant youth. A case currently before the Texas Federal District Court threatens the very existence of DACA, which protects our dreamers from deportation. This is why our senators must seize the opportunity to finally pass the Bipartisan Dream Act of 2021 and sensible immigration solutions that expand our workforce, bring certainty to families and employers, and help get our economy roared back from the pandemic. Without permanent bipartisan immigration solutions, the Florida region will continue to face an unstable and uncertain workforce, undermining the region's economic prosperity. Florida already provides in-state tuition for dreamers. Florida taxpayers have invested in their education as Floridians. When you invest in someone, you want to maximize their economic contribution. When you legalize people who are contributing, you unleash their economic potential. Our state has a lot to lose if these bright young dreamers are deported. We need a permanent solution for dreamers and their families now. For this reason, IMPACT and ABIC have partnered with the President's Alliance for Higher Education and Immigration to urge our senators, Marco Rubio and Rick Scott, to support the bipartisan Durbin-Graham Dream Act. Today, we will hear from several of Florida's university and college presidents, some of their staff, as well as dreamers and advocates. I want to thank Dr. Julio Frank from University of Miami, Gregory Hale, president of Broward College, Dr. Gregory Hanbury, president and CEO of Nova Southeastern University, Dr. Jeffrey Senes, president of St. Leo University, David Armstrong, president of St. Thomas University, as well as Jennifer Boyd Pugh, who is joining us from Barry University, Brandy Frenson, Senior Associate Director of International Admission from Rollins College, and Zonidis Torres Rosado from the Admission and Student Experience Manager with Advent Health University in Orlando. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Miriam Feldblum. Miriam is the Executive Director of the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. Miriam has over 25 years of experience in higher education administration, student support, and teaching and research of immigration policy and politics. She is a firm believer in the transformative potential of higher education in our nation's immigrant community. She's the author of Reconstructing Citizenship, the Politics of Nationality Reform and Immigration in Contemporary France, has delivered numerous presentations on immigration and higher education, and has written articles on European Union citizenship, highly skilled labor in the US, and comparisons between the US and Europe. It is my pleasure and my honor to introduce Miriam Feldblum.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And as Kathy said, my name is Miriam Feldblum, and I'm a daughter of a refugee, a Holocaust survivor, and a second-generation immigrant myself, and one of the co-founders and executive director of the Higher Education of the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration. The nonpartisan, nonprofit alliance is composed of over 500 public and private university and college presidents in 43 states, DC and Puerto Rico, including over a dozen here in Florida, and we have several of our members here today with us. We've come together on the immigration issues that impact our students, campuses, communities, and nation. As an alliance, our strength comes from our numbers and members and their roles as higher education leaders. We're committed to supporting Dreamer and other immigrant, refugee, and international students and advocating alongside them for fair, forward-looking, and common sense immigration reform. We're in a pivotal moment, and we believe now is a time for all of us in higher education to continue to redouble our efforts and lean in to call on the Senate to pass the bipartisan in order to better protect dreamers and provide them a path to citizenship. We encourage all higher education leaders to join the 200 presidents and chancellors who have already signed on to the Dream Letter organized with ABIC. And we're thrilled to be in partnership with ABIC and Impact. Back to you, Kathy.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Really appreciate working on this with you today. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Idalia Quintero. Idalia graduated from Miami Senior High, summa cum laude, and just graduated from Miami-Dade Honors College with the highest honors. Idalia is preparing to attend Syracuse University to complete her bachelor's degree in advertising with a full ride scholarship. Idalia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kathy. My name is Idalia Quinteros, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm a recent graduate of Miami-Dade Honors College. I'm a dreamer in every sense of the word, but DACA is not a part of my story. I'm one of the thousands of Floridians who will graduate undocumented if a DREAM Act is not passed. I came to the United States from El Salvador, and I arrived in 2008 at 8 years old to join my parents. Unfortunately, I arrived 1 year too late to qualify for DACA, a small mistake that I blame myself for years later. Not only did I miss the chance to be DACA eligible, although my family is Salvadorian, none of us qualified for TPS either. After 4 years of being apart, my mom and dad were anxiously waiting for me. They wanted to offer me the American dream, which for them meant endless possibilities. And they weren't totally wrong. Opportunities have been abundant. However, what they didn't know was that those opportunities were extremely limited to students like me. I became aware of this during my junior year of high school, while most of my classmates were getting their driver's license and applying for jobs and internships. I didn't have a work permit or a social security number, so I could not do any of this. Then my senior year, things became worse. My family was vouching for me to become the first to attend college, but I could not apply for financial aid, and most of the scholarships that I found had a citizenship requirement. I felt hopeless and fearful of becoming a disappointment to my family. Fortunately, my college advisor urged me to apply to the honors program at MiamiDade College, one of the few programs that extended their fellowship to undocumented students. This brings me to 2 years later today. Despite the challenges brought forth by my status, I'm proud to say that I have completed my Associate's in Arts degree in business from Miami-Dade College and will pursue a bachelor's degree in advertising at Syracuse University with a full ride scholarship. My dream is to one day use my education to work with nonprofit organizations that advocate for underserved communities. In 2 years, I will have obtained my bachelor's degree, but I can't legally practice my career without a work permit or citizenship. My story is not unique. It is shared by hundreds of thousands of dreamers, those with DACA and those without DACA, like me. Without any form of protection, we live with anxiety and fear that we might be deported and separated from our loved ones. But legislation like the Durbin-Graham DREAM Act and the Dream and Promise Act would be life-changing for millions of undocumented students and me. With a pathway to citizenship, I would not only be able to pursue my dreams, but also support my parents' dreams, who sacrificed theirs for mine. For instance, I could help my father accomplish his goal of running his own restaurant and help my mother get a job that doesn't put her health at risk like it is now. With the DREAM Act, I would finally have the opportunity to apply to and get a decent paying job with a work permit. I would also be able to get a driver's license and become more independent. I want to thank the university presidents that are listening to me and joining me today. Thank you for never forgetting students like me. Thank you for valuing our contributions and those of our families. And today I also urge our senators, Marco Rubio and Rick Scott, to act now and support the DREAM Act so young people like me can reach our fullest potential and make Florida thrive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adalia, for such strong remarks. I'm now honored to introduce one of our members, Dr. Julio Frank, President of the University of Miami. President Frank is an immigrant himself, a fourth-generation physician born in Mexico, whose grandparents had fled Germany to escape persecution and build a new life in Mexico. He's actively engaged in supporting Dreamer, immigrant, and international students, and is nationally known for his advocacy of Dreamers and thoughtful immigration policies. President Frank, over to you.
Thank you, Miriam. I'm truly delighted to be here today and to share the virtual stage with my distinguished colleagues. I admire very much the work of Impact. We're proud that a number of trustees of the University of Miami serve on the board of Impact, including Chair Mike Fernandez, as well as Paul DeMar. And I also want to thank Kathy for her kind invitation to participate in this forum. It's really a privilege. I was actually privileged to be one of the at one of the very early meetings convened by Mike Fernandez, and it's really been a privilege to see how this initiative has flourished into a major voice on behalf of Dreamers. And I'm delighted to serve on the steering committee. As you heard, I'm the son of immigrants and refugees, and now I'm an immigrant myself. And in that character, I'm truly honored to represent the University of Miami in this vital conversation. We at the EU have a long-standing commitment to sustaining a diverse and inclusive community where each of us belongs. In fact, Miami, the city we call home, has long been a model in demonstrating the remarkable role that immigrants and refugees can play. They help create a dynamic and thriving community where everyone, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, religion, or country of origin, can contribute to prosperity and well-being in the United States and around the world. In 2016, we started the U Dreamers program. This is available to exceptional and academically accomplished DACA students, and it is intended to meet 100% of demonstrated financial need. And depending on the amount of the award, this can cover all tuition and fees, on-campus housing, a meal plan, and university health insurance. The inaugural cohort of first-year U Dreamers students just graduated in May 2021. And yet we still don't have a permanent solution for young people who were brought to the US as children and know no other home. And as we just heard from Idalia, this uncertainty takes a toll, not just on Dreamers as individuals, but on all of us as a community and on the US as a country. This is why there is such broad agreement across the political spectrum that Dreamers should be protected and offered the opportunity to become as American on paper as they are in practice. I am hopeful that our conversation today advances that cause and sheds light on the amazing contributions of the resilient young people whose fortitude of character is already a known quantity. Again, thank you for the opportunity to share the platform with all of you today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frank. Thank you for joining us and thank you for being with us since the beginning. And now I'll turn it over to, now I'm going to introduce Mario Cartilla. Mario is Cuban American and the founder and principal owner of Cartilla and Associates, one of South Florida's most successful architectural firms. His work has been recognized in several magazines and newspaper articles and covers. He is the recipient of numerous awards. Mario has also dedicated himself to giving back to the community. He served 8 years as member and chair of the Broward College Board of Trustees, 16 years on Senator Bob Graham's Air Force and Naval Academy selection committees. Mr. Cartilla was furthermore an adjunct professor at the School of Architecture at Florida Atlantic University from 1995 to 2007. We are so proud to have Mario as part of our distinguished board of directors for Impact Fund. Mario, thank you so much for joining us today.
Kathy, thank you so much for having me on. It is important to recognize that immigrants everywhere have always sought to follow that light of justice, fairness, and opportunity that is projected by the sons and daughters of those immigrants before them who once followed their dreams to our shores as well. America depends on the determination, resolve, grit, work ethics, and drive to succeed that still define today's immigrants. Whether it is working in restaurants, construction, groundskeeping, home care, medical care, ranches, or agriculture, immigrants take on the most dangerous and demanding jobs in our country, fulfilling our nation's most critical labor needs. And that's not all. Go into any college or university, and you will find an overrepresented percentage of immigrants on their way to realizing their dreams of becoming the very best versions of themselves, achieving academic excellence and adding to our intellectual power at the same time. Which brings me to the DREAM Act. I cannot, as an American, overemphasize the urgent need for our elected officials to support, advocate, and vote for the DREAM Act of 2021. Help our country unleash the intellectual arsenal and economic potential of our dreamers. It is what's best for America's future. No one knows this better than our next panelist, an exceptional individual who has dedicated his life to higher education. He is a first-generation college graduate who went on to receive his bachelor's degree from Arizona University, graduating magna cum laude and receiving the Most Outstanding Graduate Award. He earned an honorary doctorate of Humane Letters from Nova University degree, is a fellow of the Vanderbilt University Higher Education Management Institute, and earned his law degree from Columbia University. He is presently, and we're lucky to have him here in Broward County, as the president of Broward College, overseeing 63,000 students and over 5,000 employees. It is indeed my pleasure today to honor and welcome the president of Broward College and my good friend, Gregory Adam Hale.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Mario. You are indeed a good friend and a great ally in this important work. And I know that there are many who would agree that you've been an outstanding leader in this area. So thank you for all that you've contributed. And of course, Kathy and Miriam and all of Impact, thank you for your incredible work. It is difference making and it is absolutely necessary. As Mario mentioned, I'm the president of Broward College, and we at Broward College absolutely cherish our international diversity. Indeed, we have over 60,000 students, but just as important is that those students are from over 150 different countries. They speak over 50 languages among them. And we have dreamers at Broward College that I consider myself absolutely privileged to serve every single day. And importantly, before serving as the president of Broward College, I actually had the privilege of serving this college and its students in this community as a general counsel and then vice president for public policy and government affairs. And in that role in 2014, I had the absolutely humbling opportunity to work on driving the bill that would allow for in-state tuition for undocumented students in the state of Florida. Then Governor Scott signed that bill, and I remember it like it was yesterday. There were cheers throughout Florida's capital. And just as many cheers, there were tears of joy throughout Florida's capital and throughout the state of Florida. And the most important part of that is that immediately we knew that thousands of lives were going to be changed, and they have been. Because now all of a sudden, with a stroke of a pen, there'd be so many folks who, for every reason you can imagine, deem themselves as American. And now they'd be treated as such as related to higher education opportunities and in-state tuition opportunities, to be specific. They knew that the one lever that could change everything in their lives, education, higher education opportunity, was now going to be available to them, just like the high school classmates that they grew up with. This was such a critical imperative, and it's made a great difference for our state and our local communities, but the work is clearly not done. That is why we are here today. We have unfinished business, not just in the state of Florida, but throughout our country, because every individual deserves every opportunity to contribute at the highest possible way through education, through workforce opportunities, and should be given the opportunity to transform their lives, especially when we know overall it's for the benefit of our local communities, our state, and our country. It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Hale and President Frank and Idalia, for your powerful remarks. We're now going to continue the conversation by turning to our panelists. So for this first question, I'm going to turn to President Armstrong, President Sinisi, and President Hanbury. If you can turn on your videos. And let me ask each of you, and I'll start with President Armstrong, why immigration matters to you personally and to your campuses. President Armstrong.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for having this event and having us on. It means so much to us because of our history at St. Thomas University. St. Thomas University, actually, we're an immigrant. Santo Tomas de Villanueva was founded in Havana, Cuba in 1946 as the first Catholic private college in Cuba. And in 1961, Fidel Castro himself invaded the campus, took over the campus, put the priests up against the wall, and was going to put them to death. They were able to save those priests, and they left and then started Biscayne College for Men here with the gift from the Archdiocese of the land that we are currently on today. And this university is now an MSI. We're a minority, majority serving institution, and we're majority of those students are Hispanic, so we're also an HSI. And recently, the U.S. News and World Report had us as #1 in social mobility. So we're taking those students and we're catapulting them to the higher financial stratas in our country. And our College of Law has a phenomenal immigration clinic. Our students and faculty are on the border, they're in the crisis, and they're dealing with families and taking care of them. For these students, through no fault of their own, they are in this situation. Great story is Diego Sanchez, who President Obama talked about in his address on immigration issues in 2013. He did not know he was a DACA student, or didn't know that he was illegal until he went to go get a license in high school. And so through no fault of his own, he had these issues. He has now, actually this April, has become a US citizen. He's a lawyer. He got a degree from our College of Law and is working for the Southern Law Poverty Center. And he is the perfect example and story. Another student, Adrian Escarte, who came here from Chile at 3, found out at the age of 11 that he was illegal because he could not go see his dying grandfather back in Chile. He was a tennis player, and he had to declare himself as an international to get a tennis scholarship at another university. And then once a new coach came on, didn't like the fact that he had to pay so much money for an international scholarship, took him off the scholarship, and he was lost. He came to St. Thomas University, has graduated. He now is also working to help people in this same situation. He works for Define America. What came out of these stories when I talked to them is the language they used. They said things like, well, when I came out as undocumented. Think about that. We have people that are in the closet on these issues for fear of hurting their family, for fear of losing their jobs. This makes no sense to me. And as Adrian told me, says, President Armstrong, please tell everyone that we are no longer little children. I am married. I have children of my own. I'm established in my career, and I am a US citizen. And so we have to stop the political football that is the Dreamers Act and solve this issue. 80% of Americans are for it. This crosses party lines. It's time. It's a no-brainer. We need to fix the situation for all these wonderful people that are in our country, serving this country.
Thank you so much, President Armstrong, really showing the integral role that they play on campuses and that education also plays in their lives. President Sinisi.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing this and having us involved. I appreciate it. So I'll start with the personal. My dad was born outside the United States. And when he came to the United States, the pathway to citizenship was service in the military. So he served in the military, and I'm a citizen. All my brothers and sisters are as well, first generation citizens because of the effort that he went through, and that was important that there was an avenue. It's important that there be an avenue for people coming from other parts of the world. Look at engineers or scientists over many, many, many decades in the United States. Where did they come from? A large percentage of them come from overseas. Back when I was in college, back in the Stone Ages, the majority of those engineering students came from Iran. It was a source of engineering and science students for the United States. Doesn't mean that we certainly don't produce way more numbers of science and engineering students. We do, but that was a historic source for the United States to advance. And whether it's the space race or uh, the Raptor or anything, you name it, we've developed based on our ability to partner globally and to bring in talent from throughout the world. St. Leo University in particular, we've increased by twofold our international students over the last couple of years, even during the pandemic. And we have offices right now in Beijing, Ho Chi Minh City, and Mumbai that are working to bring that talent to the United States. We are a very diverse community, not unlike St. Thomas, and in the sense that only 35% of our students are majority students. The rest are students of color and international students from all over. We operate right now in 5 states. We're working on our 6th state. Our main campus is in Florida, but we serve the military and civilian communities across primarily the southeast part of the United States, where we see a lot of diversity in terms of immigrant populations coming to us, military populations, not only U.S. military, but throughout throughout the world. I think it's time, and as Dr. Armstrong made clear, this is demanded by the majority of Americans. It'll do nothing but help build our economy. It'll do nothing but help build success for people in this country, in our region especially. And I think that's why we should support it, not only for us, but for the students that don't have responsibility. They don't even know that they were brought here under those pretenses. And I knew it when I was a kid. We used to speak Italian in the home, and you kind of grow up in that culture. You understand that you're part of American culture. My dad used to say, sono di americano. You stop speaking Italian, you're an American, and you need to think like an American. I always translate English to Italian. He always translated Italian to English. He went the opposite way that we did. He always thought that way. And there was a richness about that. The way he did things, the way he worked, taught me so much and taught my brothers and sisters so much, like we do, the Dreamers.
Thank you so much. Again, the personal narrative, which is combined with actually the data, right? And all the evidence that we had about how important it is. President Hanbury, if I can turn to you.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for having me on and allowing me to participate. Truly honored to join with my fellow presidents. I'm sorry, I don't have the personal stories. I grew up in Virginia. So maybe some people in South Florida think, well, that's a foreign country as well. But I, as president of Nova Southeastern University, that's a doctoral research university. We have about 15 colleges at NSU, of which 15,000 of those 22,000 students are in graduate programs, where presently DACA does not allow that potential to go beyond into our medical schools or our law school or any of the graduate programs. We do have 2 medical schools, a dental school, pharmacy, optometry, education, nursing, physical therapy, occupational therapy, many of those. But we have about 7,000 undergraduates. Of those 22,000 students, they represent about 170 countries. We are a minority majority university. We're a reflection of all of Florida. 30% of our students are African American or Black, 30% are Hispanic or Latinx, 30% Anglo, and about 10% Asian. Diversity, like integrity and community and academic excellence, is one of our core values. As such, we feel diversity helps create our strength, just as diversity creates strength in this country. I am pleased to encourage our senators to support this act. You know, back when President Obama kind of kicked the can down the road with DACA, and DACA means the Deferred Action for Childhood, Deferred Action for Childhood Support, DACA. Kicking the can through now 3 presidencies and 6 legislative changes. It's more than what President Sinisi said. It's not only time, it's way past time. So I do encourage our 2 senators to support Lindsey Graham and pass this act and stop deferring action for childhood to come to this country and unleash their potential, just as we encourage our graduates to unleash their potential to be leaders. I want them to unleash their potential to fulfill their potential as citizens and great economic developers of this diversified country. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those strong, and call to action. That was great. Let me ask if I can ask Gabby Pacheco. So I'm going to ask the presidents to turn off their videos. And Gabby, if I can turn to you next. So nationally, we know that close to 100,000 undocumented students graduate U.S. high schools annually, including 5,000 here in Florida. And there are over 400,000 undocumented students in higher education, including over 40,000 in Florida, half of whom are not eligible for DACA. And at the same time, there's been such uncertainty around the future of DACA and the prospects for DREAM legislation. In your leadership role at the DREAM.us, how have you seen this impacting the students and others you're working with?
Thank you so much, Miriam. And yes, we at the DREAM.us, which is the nation's largest college and career success program for immigrant youth, we have provided scholarships to more than 7,500 college students and dreamers attending more than 75 partner colleges in 19 states and Washington, D.C. And the DREAM.us believes that all young people, regardless of where they are born, should have an opportunity to get a college education and pursue a meaningful career that contributes to our country's future. But this is the reality. The continued volatility of the DACA program and absence of permanent protection or pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants constrain social mobility and opportunities to contribute more to the country that is their home. This is what's happening to our scholars and to dreamers across the nation. It also creates high levels of anxiety for their own safety and livelihood, as well as for their family members, who are also often undocumented. With the opportunity of a college education, each of our scholars has had a new sense of hope and a mission that has amplified across their families, their communities, and ultimately the nation. People can now envision a future they thought might not be possible. But the lack of leadership in Congress is seriously hurting not just the lives of these young people, but the communities they live in, as it was mentioned by one of the presidents. Living 2-year increments at a time creates a lot of uncertainty, and it doesn't allow these young people who have many of them, like Dr. The president of St. Thomas University said, they have families, their parents. Currently, DACA recipients are parents to more than 250,000 US citizen children to be able to create solid futures for their lives. What is impressing and what, for me, at the Dream.us is alarming is that among our newest cohort of approximately 1,200 incoming Dream.us scholars for the 2021-2022 academic year, only 23% reported having DACA status during their scholarship application process, and compared to 70% of our current scholars who have DACA. So there are two possible reasons for this, and one of them is that we think that these young people were too young to apply or don't meet the DACA requirements like Idalia. And two, they couldn't apply during the Trump administration because he had ended or tried to end the program. Reality, and this is where I think we all can agree, is that we are failing these young people. The Dreamer population is vast and the DACA program is not enough. Congress needs to act and pass the Bipartisan Dream Act now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gabby. And if I can turn back to President Frank, what are you hearing from your students on campus? I know we've talked also a lot about the struggles, but there's so many contributions too. What can you share with us?
Well, out of respect for students' privacy and because DACA was not available as a choice on the common application for admission, the only way we actually get some sense of the number of Dreamers among us is if students self-report. But nonetheless, anecdotally, we know that among the obstacles that Dreamers and other undocumented students face is the need to prioritize the safety of their families. I think it's been said many times, that's a major source of anxiety for themselves and the families. And that safety, that sense of safety is a top priority. Now, the other thing we know is that these students are remarkable. And let me just give you one example as I was thinking about our session today. We have a very remarkable and outstanding school of music, the Frost School of Music. And one of our professors there, John Daversa, compiled an album featuring 53 of our young undocumented immigrants from 17 countries. The album is called American Dreamers, Voices of Hope, Music of Freedom. Well, that album went on to win 3 Grammy Awards, one in each of the categories for which it was nominated. So I mentioned that because Dreamers' stories are truly compelling, as we've been hearing throughout this panel discussion. They have very significant talents to contribute in many fields of endeavor, of course, including music, but beyond that. And that is what I think we need to underscore. It's not just that we're doing something or expressing solidarity and altruism. This is enlightened self-interest. These are outstanding students. And we need to understand that providing them the security they need is absolutely critical if we want to continue to benefit all of us from that outstanding source of talent. Now, in our case, we originally had this You Dreamers program, mostly for high school seniors from Miami-Dade County. This has now been extended to all eligible DACA high school seniors from across the state of Florida, as well as transfer students currently enrolled in any accredited post-secondary institution in the state of Florida. So we're very committed to continuing this effort. And again, I commend Impact for the amazing job they're doing in raising this issue to the highest visibility possible.
Thank you so much, President Frank. And let me just say that with all these compelling stories, there are actions that higher education leaders and business leaders can take now, and that is signing on to the Dream Letter that AVIC, Impact, and the President's Alliance have organized to call on the Senate to pass the Bipartisan Dream Act. If I can now ask, thank you again, President Frank, if I can ask President Hale, so during this pandemic, we've seen so many immigrant and international students, alumni, and others who've been at the forefront of fighting COVID-19. As the president of Broward College, How do you see the importance of immigration for future innovation and prosperity in your state and for the education that takes place in your campus? You started to talk about it, but I want to hear more.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely speak to that, and I'll actually tie back to what Dr. Frank was saying as well. You know, part of the challenge that we have to reconcile is that there are brilliant people living very fragile lives. They want to be thoughtful around what they can contribute to this country for the next 1, 5, 10, 50 years. And contemporaneously, they have to be concerned about whether they'll even be here that long. Of course, we always have to be respectful of the privacy of our students, but I could tell you about so many students that I've been in direct contact with over the years. One comes to mind who is brilliant, and he will be a brilliant doctor, but his attainment of becoming a brilliant doctor is often intercepted by the simple fear of whether he and his family will be here from one year to the next. Yet he persists. He does probably that which I could not, and that is to continue to have a vision despite the risk of not being here again from one day to the next. These are the stories of our students. And when I think about those stories and how they translate to our community and our state, I think about work with the Florida Chamber and how Florida, the state of Florida is now ranked 17th in GDP worldwide, but we're trying to get to become the 10th rank. We want to grow our economy. But if you're going to get there, you've got to make sure that we're growing every individual that exists within this economy. What does it look like to have a per capita understanding, a per person understanding of contributions? And if you know that there are folks who are being limited in their contributions, not because they don't have the will or the capacity, but simply the policy framework doesn't exist to support them. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about people with every gift in the world, but with the burden of a policy framework and infrastructure that doesn't support them. As we think about the work that Impact is doing and that we're all doing, I continue to lean into the reality that we are helping people and individuals who care about this country just as much as anyone else, but we're also looking at how do we help our country by helping our people. It is a gift every time that we get to serve a student who may not be from this country, but has every ambition and will to be as much of this country as anyone else, and even more to make contributions just as much as anyone else.
Thank you so much. So well said and so important. So to close out this conversation, I want to give each of you an opportunity to kind of, what's your top line message for the senators of Florida? You know, over 80% of the American public support DREAM legislation and support a pathway. So this makes, you know, economic sense, it makes educational sense, it makes national sense. What can we share with the Florida senators? And let me start, President Hanbury, you talked about this, but I want to also give you.
Well, thank you. My short words are, what made America great is innovation. And innovation comes about from diversity, with people looking through the same prism with different eyes and different perspectives. And we will only be able to continue to have innovation in this country if we allow that diversity to continue to grow and to be educated and to see through the same prism with different eyes. Our innovation and our leadership in the world will continue if we recognize that. So I'd like to see us change the name from Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals to MACA, Meaningful Action for Childhood Arrivals. So once again, I do call on our two senators to support Lindsey Graham and to pass this act, to see us all looking through the same prism with different eyes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hanbury. Diversity drives excellence. Immigration drives innovation. Very compelling. President Armstrong, if I can call
Yes. Very simply, Senator Rubio and Senator Scott have done great things for the state of Florida. And they understand the importance of economic success and creating business opportunities. And I would just say very simply to our senators, from a political standpoint, there are times where the Republicans were for this, and there are times when the Democrats were for this. And for whatever reason, it keeps on getting punted back and forth as a political football. We need to end that. Through no fault of their own, these students are in this situation, these citizens, these people are in these situations through no fault of their own, and they are productive American citizens. And through a technicality, they don't have that designation. It's time to end that. It's time to sign and pass the Dreamers Act of 2021. We ask you for all your support, and we ask you to push that forward. It's the right thing to do.
Thank you so much, President Armstrong. The time to act is now. There's no longer any time to waste. We need to act. President Hale, can I ask you as well?
Yes, it's my pleasure. Again, thank you for having me today. And to our senators, as I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, one of my greatest privileges was in 2014 to have the opportunity to support in-state tuition for undocumented students. And obviously both of you were incredibly supportive of that work. I only ask that we continue the sense of urgency. We reestablish that sense of urgency. And there's no time like the present to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to become the best version of themselves. And I know that you're going to be leaders in helping us get there. Thank you for all of your support.
Thank you so much. The investments of Florida in these young people need to be matched with future investment. Gabby, what's your top line message to the Florida?
My top line messages is, to Senator Rubio, I've had the privilege to get to know you personally, and I know you've been supportive of Dreamers on this issue. Senator Rick Scott, you've been a champion for undocumented students in the state of Florida, and through your leadership is that we were able to pass in-state tuition legislation, allowing Dreamers to get in-state tuition at Florida colleges. My message to both of them is that as leaders, you've been with us, you know this issue, and it's time to come out front and center to support the Bipartisan Dream Act.
Thank you so much, Gabby. And now, President Sinisi, I'd love to turn to you and ask for your top.
Sure, I would iterate what others have said is senators support this act and think about it in business terms. So over 130 million in taxes, over $1 billion in spending for this population. You need to keep them here and keep them committed and let them be successful. Let them be even more successful, but also think about the demographics in higher ed. So if you look at the Northeast and other parts of the country, demographics are not on higher ed side. Higher education is a huge business in Florida and a growing business in Florida. Support it by supporting the Dreamers Act and the Dreamers to Attend. The other thing that I'll say about us at the private institutional side, we do our part. We put money forward for students to attend our institutions, as do the state institutions, but we're putting forward, in addition, private money. So we are committed and will continue to be committed. We need your support to have these students come forward to us as well. Thank you. Thanks for everything you do as well.
Thank you, President Sinisi. You make such an important point, both about the economic necessity, but also if we consider the growth of higher education enrollments, first and second generation immigrant students constituted 60% of the growth of enrollments among domestic students. This is important. This needs to be acted on. Finally, President Frank, can I turn to you for the final message to the senators?
Sure. Let me start with, I think it's been a theme. We are seeing right now incredible opportunities for prosperity across Florida, particularly in South Florida, as we're growing into a global innovation hub. This is truly a pivotal moment, and we cannot afford to lose talent. When students like Idalia graduate from the honors program at MiamiDade College, between our articulation agreement with the college and the assistance available to them through our You Dreamers program, the University of Miami could help keep their talent in our community. And all the university presidents that have spoken and college presidents have talked about similar initiatives. There is the opportunity. This is a crucial moment. I think my top message is what I said before, and I think it's permeated this whole conversation. Passing legislation like the DREAM Act is not an act of charity. It is enlightened self-interest. Dreamers have incredible potential, and the time to give them the security of full status, of allowing them to fully belong, that time is now.
Thank you so much, President Frank. Before you leave, we also have some listeners who are asking if you can give a few remarks in Spanish.
Sure, por supuesto, con mucho gusto, y es un honor. Creo que este es el momento de actuar. Tenemos muchos estudiantes, una gran reserva de talento en el estado de Florida y en todos los Estados Unidos. Y es importantísimo que nuestros legisladores actúen ahora para aprobar esta legislación y realmente darle a estos estudiantes que hasta ahora no conocen otro país, otra patria que Estados Unidos, la oportunidad de la seguridad que implicaría esta legislación.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your leadership, for your action, for your commitment and engagement. And thank you, Idalia and others, for also sharing your stories. They're so important. We need to take action. Sign our dream letter, call your senators, and let me turn this back over to Kathy. Kathy, over to you.
Thank you so much, Miriam. What an incredible, incredible panel. It has been an honor to be part of this today. I truly feel so much hope for our state and for the students in our state. I want to welcome, everybody for your questions, for your input today. I want to encourage you to please sign our dream letter. We have a goal to get to 1,000 university presidents and CEOs through this letter, and that would really, really help us get to the other side. And again, what we've heard again and again today, the path is open for Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Rick Scott to do the right thing, to stand behind the young people of our state, to help our state be the most economic, competitive force that it can be. We truly believe that together we can do it. So thank you very much to everybody for joining us today. Please take the time to go to the chat, click on the link, sign the letter. Please go to our website, impactfund.org, to learn about other ways that you can get involved. Check us out on Facebook. This will be available as a Facebook Live on our Facebook, and we look forward to continuing to work together with you to get this over the finish line. Thank you, everybody, for your time, your experience today, and we will be in touch with you soon. Thanks again. Bye.